Hi, and thanks so much for being here today. I have a special guest, as you can see. And what we're talking about today is a brand new suite of products from Stampin' Up called All Together. Now, there are some really neat things in this collection. It's about togetherness and humanity and people, humans. But if you don't like the images of the hands and some of these things I'll show you quickly, stick around and pay attention until the end, because there's some really neat ways to use this in ways that you would not necessarily expect from seeing the products at the beginning. So this is packed full. I'm going to share with you 5 or 6 ways to, where are you tapping me? 5 or 6 ways to color designer paper. We're going to use our blends alcohol markers. I'm going to show you some blending techniques. I have 6 card samples I'm going to share with you, and if you stick around until the end, what do you get to see? A surprise. A surprise from the miniature crafter, and she makes some pretty cool stuff, I have to say. I'm like really impressed sometimes. So she's going to share her project at the end. So we have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. So here you can see what comes in the All Together collection. We'll talk about these products, then I'm going to share with you lots of ideas of how to use them. So in just a second, I'll show you the designer paper. We have the Here Together stamp set, which has some really nice greetings. I promise, goes cute with this stamp. Love changes everything. Every act of kindness changes the world. We'll get through this together, and you matter to me. This one is my absolute favorite. You could use that for pretty much anything. Then we have the die set. There's a die that goes with each of these hand images. There's a little heart that goes with this one, and then a die that says you matter and here for you. So I love these big word images, and I'll show you how I use them on some cards here in a few minutes. Then with this, we have the release of our Skin Tones Stampin' Blends alcohol markers. I love our alcohol markers. You've seen me use them several times. I love to blend with them and color. And this is such a nice addition to our collection so that we have a wide range of skin tones that we can offer now. So we have the deep, I'll mention this here. Right now, you can get all 10 of them, or you can get them in sets of 2. So I'll separate them out into their sets of 2. We have the deep, the medium deep, medium light, and light is the way they are described online or in our catalogs. They're not in our catalogs yet, but they will be. And I'll mention that. So these will be in our next annual catalog. The rest of these products won't. And the dies are only available while supplies last. So if this is something you love, you definitely want to try and get this, especially the dies, as soon as possible before they could potentially run out. Yes, stamping helper?
Can I help color?
Can you help color? Sure.
Yeah.
So here's our designer paper. Now, when I show you the few things here in a second, I'm tongue-tied today. You're going to see lots of images with hands, and what you're going to notice right here is you don't see a lot of images with hands. So I have used quite a few of those prints already. You get several of each one. Here's one of them. Here's one of the smaller ones upside down. But if you like those hand images, you get a good number of them. You can stamp a lot more with the stamps in the stamp set. But if you're not a huge fan of that, this paper pack has some of the neatest prints that really don't have anything to do with that. The leaves and just nice basic black and white prints. And you can color these in a lot of ways. I shared a video a while back on, I think, like 10 different ways to color black and white designer paper. So I'm going to link you to that here if you want more information of just some fun ideas of how to spice up your black and white papers a little bit. Now, let's look at the, I think, 6 different ways I colored this designer paper pack using just these blends. And we'll get Little Miss Stamping Helper started on coloring one of these to show you. So here are the ways I colored them. Now, this was a full, all of these were full pieces of 6x6 designer paper. and I trimmed them down to make my card samples, which you'll see in just a second. So here is a really nice one for hands linking, and I will show you here in a second how I did the blending on these. Here's a really nice one of hands reaching in the air. Here is one I love. So I blended these two similarly. I'll show you that. On this one, I didn't do any blending exactly. I just colored. So I used my lightest markers at the top. I colored this leaf with my lightest marker, this leaf with the lightest marker, this leaf. And then as I moved down, I'd color the next set of leaves with the next darker marker. So as you go down the page, it looks like it's blended. On this one, I used the lightest markers in the center. I just made streaks, and I didn't really spend much time blending, but because of the pattern on the print, it looks blended. Here was a fun one. I need to turn this into some cards, but I used the darkest markers over here, the lightest ones down here, colored in that circular pattern, and got kind of a neat result there.
Turn it over.
Turn it over? Oh yeah, we should look at that. Let me show you one more, and then we'll look at the back sides. Here's one with the hearts. I love this one. This is one of my favorites, I think. And I just kind of spread out where the colors were, where my dark colors were and my light colors, and I thought that was a neat effect as well. And I always forget to show, but I think that the back sides of these are so neat when you color with the blends. So just so you can take a look, you could actually use the back sides of some of these. I think this hand one is really neat. Yeah?
I think this one's the best.
You like the ones with the little hearts?
Yeah.
That's pretty neat too. Okay, girls. So here is one of the hand prints that I started, and I left that one unfinished so that I could show you now how I do the blending. So let me do just a little bit. Maybe I'll do like one finger, and we're gonna let our little helper do the rest. So looks like I've used some of the dark skin tones. Looks like I've used the mediums. I think I'm gonna use these lightest ones on here. Yep, babe.
I need that one.
I need that one.
Yeah.
Well, let's use these two, I guess.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is you can choose any of the colors in the set. You can use two that are next to each other in the line of light to dark, but they don't have to be. But what I'm going to do is what I did with all of them. I just used the darker of the two that I was using around the edge and in between the fingers, and I would go around all of that at one time, but I'll let Kelsey finish this. And then I come back with the next one and color in between, and that will blend together. So do you want to finish this for me?
Yeah.
Okay, I use this around the outside
Okay.
and then between the fingers, and then I filled in with this one. Now let's look at my card samples. I really had fun making card samples with these, and Kelsey has a neat one to share with us too, so she'll show it to us here in a second. Here's my first one where I used half of that paper print with the linking hands. So I'd colored it, I just cut a strip of that, used the essential tag punch to punch this tag, and it's just a nice simple card. Excuse me. My second card sample is right here, and it's another one I just used those hands reaching in the air, stamped the "You Matter to Me" greeting there, and it's just a really nice, I feel like it's a striking card, you know, one that's going to make a statement. And I think every handmade card makes a statement, but definitely one that's going to stand out to the person that you send it to. The third one, I used some of those black and white prints without doing anything to them at all. You can use these in a lot of ways without coloring, without doing anything. So I put a block of vellum over top, put that "You Matter" die cut on, and I think this is a really nice card that came together quickly as well. Here's another one where I used that other big die cut, the "Here for You" one, and I used the hand die cut, making the little heart symbol, and the brick and mortar embossing folder in the background. So that's another nice one. Here's one where I used that leaf print and I just cut a strip of that, mounted it on the black paper. I had fun kind of playing around with using the neutrals in the background versus these fun bright colors. There's so many ways, you know, you could keep it neutral, but I think some of these bright colors really are fun too. But I like this. I added that strip of gold foil paper. I made this punch with the Treasured Tags Pick-a-Punch, and I think that's just beautiful. And once I had that designer paper colored, this was very simple to create. And this one might be my favorite, or one of my favorites. I really like how this came out. I used the Heart Punch Pack, and I punched these out of that designer paper I'd colored, used some of the black prints from the designer paper, put a few strips there in the background, added this tag on top, and then speaking of our blends markers, did you know I wanted some rhinestones that were olive that match my background. And did you know, here's a fun tip for ways to use your blends markers, you can color rhinestones and embellishments and it will stay on there permanently. So I got some that were olive and matched my background. So while we're talking about embellishments, I'll mention this real quick. When I started looking for embellishments for these cards, I was stumped for a minute, like, well, what color of embellishments do I want to look for? And what I decided was that some of these metallics coordinate with these skin tone markers really, really well. So these were a few that I picked out and used, or even if I didn't use them, ones that I thought would look nice. And I can link to these and everything else in the video description below if you're interested in taking a look at any of them. Now, do you want to show us what you colored?
Yeah.
Do you want to show us your hand one first? This one right here?
Mm-hmm.
So here Kelsey finished coloring the hand with the blending. So what's nice about these markers is if you want to do the blending, you can, but you don't have to. You can just color in a solid area without any blending, and they just have a really rich, deep tone that just is really bold, stands out, and looks really nice. But if you want to play around with the blending, you can do that as well. So Kelsey finished that for us. Now, are you going to share with us your project you created? Pretty. So tell us about it.
I used the blends to make a rainbow, and I put these butterfly ones.
Yeah, 2 of these. She's showing me the brushed brass butterflies. That's hard to say. She put 2 of those on there. So how did you pick your designer paper print?
I messed up on the other side with the hands.
That's true. Yep.
So I went to the other side.
So it was take 2. It was a do-over.
And the reason why I did the bumpy is because of that. Like,
oh, so she cut the wavy pattern on the top because of the hands, but then you ended up using this side, so you don't really see that. But that's why it's that way, right?
Then I used basic black to write smile.
You used your marker for that. Very good. So how many projects do you make that are kind of a do-over, like it turns out a certain way because you messed something up? Honestly, I think I make some of my neatest projects when I mess things up and have to have some kind of do-over. So there you go, friends. The All Together collection. I hope this gives you a lot of ideas of ways to use your blends markers, ways to color the designer paper, lots of card ideas, and just some fun inspiration from an almost 8-year-old professional crafting wannabe. So thanks so much for being here. We hope you have a blessed day. We hope you'll be back again next time when I'll be here helping you to hand make with love.